Hey, we're live. Welcome back, everybody. I hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving. Ben, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. It was obviously really different. It was
Yeah,
just my two youngest kids and my wife, and we sort of video chatted with the extended family. But in some ways, it was really kind of nice because there was no pressure. It was just the four of us, and obviously we love our family gatherings. I love everybody. It's different when you got 30 people in the house.
yeah,
So it was really nice. It was like, oh well, I guess we'll eat now. It's
yeah,
pretty chill. So yeah.
yeah,
How about you?
yeah. Good. It was same. I mean, it was kind of nice to be low key and to not have any uh like high big expectations on me, or like you say, on like the food and all of that.
Mhm.
And as much as I love our large family gatherings, there's something really sweet about the small one too. And I think if anything, 2020 has helped us to just be grateful in our circumstance, and in our seasons and where we're at, and to be grateful for technology. This is a total side note, but I think about, like, you know, back in like the world wars, and people,
Yeah.
like their spouses would go off to war, and they could write letters, and it'd be weeks or months before
Mhm.
they would get to hear it. Or I just, it's I'm so grateful for technology because we have the ability to, like you say, to hop on Zoom or whatever and video chat. Is not the same. I mean, we can't carry this on forever,
Right.
but at least we have it, for
Oh yeah, you
purposes.
get a little bit more of the essence of the person, you at least get to see their facial expressions and hear their voice, and we are very blessed. And I've even thought about that in just pre-pandemic, the touring context. How
Mm,
cool it is to be able to, pick up your phone and lay in your bunk on a tour bus and see your family again,
yeah,
as opposed to even an email or something, would have been instantaneous as opposed to a letter, but not as great as a video chat. And to that end, I've actually been thinking about my December because I realized this is the first December that I can remember. I mean, I started in this career very young, so basically still in high school. So my entire career, my entire adult life has been this career, and I thought about all my Decembers past: rush, 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 go, go, go.
hmm,
Seeing Christmas trees in hotels or seeing Christmas trees in airports,
hmm,
not being home to set up the tree with my family, kind of thinking about that. Well, I'll be home for Christmas, sort of, the chorus
hmm,
song,
yeah,
and flying home or something like December 22nd and getting in just in time, and this year it's going to be completely opposite. I'll be home the entire month of December.
hmm.
So we've actually decided to watch a different Christmas movie every night for 25 nights.
Huh, good for
And
you.
of course, we're now 5 or 6 nights in. What day is today? I don't even know. December
I
4th,
know.
4 nights in. And it's pretty
That
cool. I'm kind of digging
2020
it.
has done that to us. Like, where are we? I
Oh,
don't
yeah. Does time have any meaning anymore?
I
No.
know. I know, but Ben, I love that. That's so cool. And I think it's a really interesting perspective for all of us to embrace, to just kind of reevaluate and and take the opportunity to slow down, and to be grateful that we can slow down, even though, yeah, there's a lot about it that kind of stinks and is hard, because we don't like change, right? Like, we
Right.
don't we don't like things ripped away from us without our consent. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what 2020 has been. But I think there's so much beauty to be had when we can stop and just look around and take advantage of the opportunities that we have around us, and choosing to be grateful in our circumstances, even if we're not grateful for them. And yeah, I love that. That's so great. I
I
love
agree with
that.
that. Gratitude is a choice. And
Hmm.
and I did a video the other day just on my Facebook, but I made it public so anybody can watch it if you're so inclined. And it was really encapsulating that, on what we have to be gratitude for. Because as Thanksgiving came, there's a lot of people in our industry who thought, what should we be thankful for? I don't feel very thankful right
Hmm.
now. But go watch the video and see what you think. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing I was thinking about is you can't choose your circumstance. You don't get to choose this.
Right.
You mentioned, like, being off to war, millions of soldiers and non-combatant citizens, their cities were bombed, and, lots of things happened that were outside of their individual control. You can't control your circumstances, but you can control what you do about it.
Yeah.
And that's really
Amen.
my thought about December is, I have this opportunity to be at home with my family, something that for years I've sort of pined for, and now I've got it, and I could mope and be depressed about not having work to go do and all those kinds of things, or I could take advantage of the opportunity that I have because almost certainly, with almost tremendous certainty, we're going to be very busy next year,
Right.
and in next December it's going to be rush, rush, rush again. And you know what? Doggone it! If I find myself looking at a Christmas tree in an airport and realizing I blew it in 2020, I had
Hmm.
this chance and I didn't take it, that's on me.
Yeah.
That's on me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, Ben. That's so good. Well, I'm happy for you that you get to have this change of pace because you know what? I my I think I've told you this before. I can't remember, but I've said it on some of my other podcasts and stuff like that, but a change of place plus a change of pace equals a change of perspective. And
That's
so
really good.
for you, your pace is completely different, right? And your place is too because you're not in an airport, right?
Right.
And so you have an opportunity to really have a shifted perspective that maybe will change the way you live the rest of your life. And we have an opportunity to stop in these times, all of us, say, okay, God, how do you want 2020 to shape me for the
Right.
better? You know, and we do have a choice. You're so right. I love that. Yeah, so good. Well, happy Christmas movie watching. That's
Yes.
amazing. And just make sure that you get at least one cheesy Hallmark movie in there. They're kind of hard. They're kind of hard to like swallow and to sit through,
They
but
all have the same plot.
I
It's
know, but your
different
wife will
actors and the
appreciate.
same plot. Yeah.
Actually, they have a lot of the same actresses
Big
too.
city career-minded woman comes home to small town, meets guy who works at the hardware store,
Oh, that's
all her
hilarious.
love. It's
Yep.
I have a friend, a male friend that I caught watching Hallmark movies nonstop. So I've been sending him Hallmark movie memes like every day. It's
Oh, that's
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
he's way over it by now. He's like, stop sending these to me.
Stop it. That's funny. Oh man. Well,
I will watch
anyway.
at least one. I promise.
Yeah, for your wife's sake. Come on. Just
Yes,
at least one. Yeah, because they are cheesy and predictable, but sometimes we need that because this year has not been predictable.
that's right. Yes, truth.
Yeah. Yeah. So, along the lines of predictability, I don't think anyone could have predicted the needs that we would have for technology and live streaming within the church context. And for people who are watching and you're outside the church context, it's the same. I'm sure that they have had to implement technology, live streaming video in some capacity, even if it's just staff meetings on Zoom, right?
Oh yeah.
And
That was a
and
great segue, by the way. I love what you did there.
thank you. um yeah, I'm kind of proud of myself. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, knocked that one right out of the park.
So anyways, that being said, we are going to talk about live streaming today because it's something that we've all had to deal with. And I know that you have had to have probably countless discussions with people, and I've had many with churches who are like, well, I need to upgrade from my iPhone. Like I at least need to get to a place where we feel like it's dependable. I think that was
Mhm.
one of the biggest things. And I talked to some bigger churches too that they were like, every week something goes wrong. It's not dependable. And there is a certain variable, right? Like always, where we're just at the mercy of the internet. But I think there are some things that, we could learn from your wisdom and experience because, like I was telling you before, me, I felt like a little baby this year stepping into something brand new and just kind of like learning to walk with live streaming. And I had to start to ask people, that I knew, okay, this person knows more. This person's live streaming at their church. What can I learn from them? Because we needed to have like a crash course in live streaming in order to successfully execute the Overflow Worship Conference.
Great.
And so, for all of you who are in the Facebook group, or if you're not in the Facebook group, that's a great spot for these types of discussions because it's a safe place to ask those questions, even if you feel a little silly or like, oh, this might be a dumb question. I guarantee you it's not dumb. I probably asked it this year. So just ask away. And with that being said, Ben, let's kick it off with a little bit about live streaming. What's one of the most common questions you've gotten this year from people that you've worked with and talked with in the church context?
I think the two most common questions I'll boil down to two words: how and where.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually had that question in the group from Eugene. Uh,
Yeah.
and by the way, like Andrea said, please ask questions in the group because you are probably asking for others who maybe are just too shy. But
Yeah.
also feel free to contribute answers. I think that as we walk this walk together, and as you walk these walks for your congregations, you have a great opportunity, if not maybe even an obligation, to share that with other congregations and say, well, here's what we did and
Yeah.
it worked really well, or this was a total disaster, don't do that,
Yeah.
uh, and that's how we all learn as a community, right? So
Yeah.
the how, well, they're both kind of complicated questions. I'll try to give simple answers today, and being a nerd, of course, everything's complicated in my head, but you don't want to live in there. It's just, you don't want to live in there. The how really depends on the what. If you're doing something like what we're doing right now, which is really, kind of talking head, podcast, webcast, that sort of thing, it's a bit different from streaming an actual service. And that, is really another topic that we should delve into another day in terms
Mm-hmm.
of what the finished product looks like.
Yeah.
Is it a multi-camera shoot? Is it, one camera? Do you have a worship team? Mixing audio for live streams is a minefield in and of itself. I'll give you the 10-second version of that, in that you, our viewers right now, are hearing us on your speakers, whatever that is, whether it's your computer speakers, your headphones, your phone, but you're basically in a vacuum. You're not hearing either of us acoustically. And so we have to bear that in mind with the music in our service. The
Mm-hmm.
mix is very, very different for a live stream or broadcast as opposed to mixing live to an
Yeah.
audience. So that's for primer for future.
Yeah.
So, with the how being said, basically it boils down to this: somehow we have to get the content out to the internet, which leads us to the where, which we'll talk about in a second. And the how can be a variety of ways. It can be a streaming box, YOLO box, something like that, that basically you plug in an HDMI and an audio and it connects to the interwebs. It's basically a little computer.
Mm-hmm.
It can be through a conventional computer, and boy, that's, I mean, honestly, if we did this show for weeks on end, we still wouldn't cover it all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it comes down to a bit of what you have in your church
Mm-hmm.
existing, what will mesh with your infrastructure really well. This is a great plug for going to the forum and asking questions.
Yeah.
Not only are there other congregants and people like you that are in the group that can share their experience, there's also some nerds like myself and my good friend Neil McKinney and other people who are in the group that would be very happy to kind of walk you through that based on your individual circumstance. That Let's talk a little bit more about the how, unless you got something you want to drop in there real quick. I just
No,
got
that's
ramblings.
no,
Okay.
that's great. Yeah, that's great.
I get off on my nerd soapbox and I'm gone. Like, here we go.
Here we go. I'll bring you back if you go too far.
Yeah, thank you. It's the digital version of a shepherd hook.
Yeah. With
Uh,
yes.
So it depends a bit on the resolution that we're streaming at. And I said this at your conference too. I said, forget about 4K. Nobody's really watching 4K content,
Mhm.
especially on the internet. And we have to think about what the internet is. It's as I think it was a senator that said, it's a series of tubes. But really, if we think about it, it's a series of computers and connections between computers. And the more data we're trying to send through, the greater likelihood we're going to have a bottleneck somewhere and then we'll be interrupted. So I would avoid 4K right now. I would say do 720 or 1080. And the only part of the bottleneck we can control is our connections internally. So, number one, don't use wireless. Don't use
Mm.
Wi-Fi. If you can avoid it at all,
Yeah.
have a wired connection to your router. Eliminate the variables of a Wi-Fi radio and all the things that can go with that. Use a good old-fashioned Ethernet cable from your streaming box or your computer to your router, which then goes out to the world. Right.
Yeah.
Number two, make sure that you have adequate bandwidth in your internet plan, which almost everybody should now. I mean, I,
Mhm.
I did a little bit of looking last night just to see what basic internet plans were, and all of them advertised to be substantially more than you need.
Mhm.
I say advertised to be.
Yes. Test them, right? Test
Right.
it.
There are lots of caveats and there are differences in, digital subscriber lines, DSLs, and that sort of thing. So, maybe things to look at. Oh, yeah. Somebody said we stream at 720. Looks great.
Yes.
which, by the way, you'll notice that shows up as Facebook user on the screen. It doesn't show your name. There's a little widget you have to do so that StreamYard can show your name. So thank you for the comment. We don't know who you are, uh, but if you click the link that goes with the live stream, you can enable StreamYard to show your name. So.
Oh,
Oh, it
yeah.
must be Neil because somebody commented says, "Thank you, Neil." Somebody from the Animal Effects team. So there you go. I was just talking about Neil. He's a super bright mind, a very good friend of mine, and he's in the group to answer these questions. So uh,
Hmm.
love that.
Cool.
Um, so let's talk about plans for a little bit. Basically, the most important thing is your upload speed
Hmm.
because that's what's going out. And a lot of times internet companies advertise download speed because that's how you consume internet.
Right.
At least historically, it's how fast can I see things on the internet. But in this
Yep.
case, what all we really care about is our upload speed. So, all right, another anonymous Facebook user that our team will have to tell us who it is. It says we also stream at 720 work great. It does.
Perfect.
720 is perfectly adequate.
Yeah.
Um, what I want to do real quick is I'm going to test my own internet speed real quick here. And there's a site called speedtest.net. And let's just go to that real quick. Okay. Just confirm you can see this for me.
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So we're going to test my internet speeds here. And of course, I'm at home. And we're going to click the go button. And right now, it is going to test our download speed, which of course we're not that concerned about. I mean, obviously, it helps to be able to for me to see you,
Hmm.
but our outbound stream is what we're really concerned about is our upload speed.
Yes. Huh.
All
I think
right,
I've
so
seen.
download we're at 250. Go ahead. Sorry, Andrew.
Oh, no, that's fine. I was gonna say I'm pretty sure I've seen my husband use this quite a bit too. This website, just because we need to test our internet speed often because we both need it.
Well, it helps keep them honest, right? So also
Yeah.
help identify problems and bottlenecks and that
Yep.
sort of thing. So here we can see an ad. Let's get out of there. Ad. Here we can see that my upload speed is 235 megabits per second. Now, what do we need? I think we're back to us. There
Yes.
we are. Uh, if you're just doing 720, you can probably get by with as little as two. So I've got 100 times more than I need. If you're doing
Yeah.
1080, I would recommend at least four. Those are kind of the minimum recommended numbers. Uh, you want to be way above that so that, if there's any interruption, if my speed drops from 250 to 200, I don't care.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. No problem.
Right.
So that was Eugene, who, and then again, this was his topic today. So thank you, Eugene, for contributing that.
Yeah.
Nice
Well,
to
and I
see you
think
guys watching.
for the Overflow Worship Conference, we live streamed our worship night, and I had to talk specifically with the church about their internet because I had been chatting with their worship leader, and he was telling me how they were having some trouble with their internet connection speed. And so I was like, okay, let's take a look at it, and we'll need to test it. What do you think we can do? And they were able to increase their speed, but even so, I think they increased it to maybe like 50 up or something like that. And
Sure.
even so, they were, one of the people I was talking with about live streaming said, even if you're at 10 up, like you're going to be great, so like 2, 4, 10, like it's, it's amazing how, you know, little you can get by with, but you do need to have it. So
Right.
we overcompensated at 10 because I was very scared that it wasn't going to work. But yeah, they were all saying like, oh, you should be fine with 2, 4, whatever. I think they were down even lower than that before. So that's why they were having issues. But yeah.
Yeah, well, and again, it depends on how much resolution. Resolution just translates to data, and
Yeah.
it's exponential. 1080 is a lot more data than 720,
Yeah.
and 4K is a lot more data than 1080. Like
Yeah.
a factor of four or something. Uh, but the thing is, too, that they say a chain and its weakest link. So if I have 250 up, which I do at the box, and again, if I try to use Wi-Fi, now I'm limited to whatever that data rate for the Wi-Fi is, and
Mm.
I'm at the mercy of everything else using that network.
Yeah.
So again, if I've only got 10 and I've got other things that are trying to use it at the time, that's going to compromise me. But two is even if I'm going hardwired and I'm going through a network or a router within my building, again, wherever the weakest link is, that's the thing you got to address.
Hmm. Yeah.
So if you're using an old 1992 hub as opposed to a modern switch, you're
Yeah.
going to struggle a lot.
Yeah. And do you recommend, even with hardwiring, that, like, for example, a church that has free Wi-Fi, right? You can get in, you sit down, you can connect to their Wi-Fi if you want to. Would
Hmm.
you recommend maybe protecting that by passwords so that don't have all these devices automatically connecting?
Oh yes, and segmenting that, and we're really this is a great future topic because Wi-Fi networks within your building create a lot of opportunity for your guests, and they create a lot of opportunity for problems.
Yeah.
Uninvited guests, i.e., hackers,
Sure.
or people that will sit in your parking lot and stream movies illegally, and that has I know factually that has happened,
Hmm.
and Red Lion Films has sent out nasty grams and said, hey, you're illegally downloading movies,
Hmm.
and the business is like, not us. Well, somebody
Yeah.
was sitting in their Wi-Fi in the
Wow.
parking lot at night, and because that's when they looked at it, they said, oh, this is after hours.
Hmm.
Nobody's at the church on Tuesday at 10 p.m. How could somebody
Right.
have downloaded a movie? Oh, they sat
Right.
in your parking lot and did it.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think one, protecting your access in that way, but two, protecting your internal network, making sure there's some separation there. Bottom line, um, I wouldn't just go put up a bunch of access points and say, oh well, only good people will use it at church.
Yeah.
That's creating a lot of vulnerability.
Sure.
Not to mention, like you said, data use. And another thing to mention is some of these plans will throttle you, which is to say they will restrict your speeds
Mm.
if you use a certain amount of data. So again, if everybody's sitting in church watching YouTube instead of listening to the pastor and they're chewing up all your nobody, you wouldn't do that. Nobody would do
No.
that. Chewing up your bandwidth, suddenly you might go, hey, wait, our 50 is no longer 50.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Okay.
couple
Interesting.
yeah just a couple things to think about there I think, but that's another reason too. Again, if you've got Wi-Fi and you've got a wired connection and you can sort of layer those things apart, you can protect your stream.
Hmm.
And if the in-church Wi-Fi slows down a little bit, that's maybe not as critical as the stream going out, but that's a decision you have to make internally.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. That's helpful, I think, for everybody. Because, like we were talking about before, Ben, a lot of times we just need to know what questions to ask,
Yes.
and like where to start. And so, taking it down to the very, very raw beginning and recognizing that that's okay, right? It's okay to ask these elementary questions, because if we don't have these foundations in place, I mean, if you don't have at least four up or whatever on your stream, then we're not going to have a stream. And so
Right.
kind of way backing up. So so where do we go from this point in our last, few minutes here as we go on to the next thing? Where do we go from here?
Excuse me. Well, I think we covered the important things with the bulk of our time, which is really good. I think that having just a little bit of time to talk about the where is
Yeah.
perfectly adequate because there's a lot of wheres out there.
Yeah.
Certainly, we're using StreamYard right now, and for what we're doing, it's great. It's a great platform. It then links out, as viewers, because you're watching us on either Facebook or YouTube.
Hmm.
It sends it to those places. There are other services like Restream, ChurchStreaming.tv, uh, Vimeo. I made a list. Of
Yeah.
course, you can stream natively to YouTube if you want.
Yeah.
Some gotchas there. There's others. There's UStream, and there's several paid services. Well, ChurchStreaming.tv is a paid service. Daycast, Sermoncast. I can't really speak to any of these specifically because I don't use them.
Hmm.
Other than obviously we use StreamYard here, and everybody kind of knows what YouTube is, the good and the bad. But
Yeah.
same with Facebook. It's a social media platform, and it's a place that we can come together, and
Yeah.
so that's my church streams to Facebook, for example,
Okay.
uh, for better or for worse. But our we premiere the videos, and I think our leadership is just really hoping that will uh, reach new people as in addition
Hmm.
to the regular congregation, because I think right now we can all agree we really need some Jesus here. This
Yeah.
pandemic has maybe helped some other people to think about that, to think,
Yeah.
I never really haven't gone to church in a long time, but I just stumbled upon this Facebook link. Maybe I'll watch it.
Yeah. For
I
sure.
know. So what have you used for overflow?
Yeah, so we used a company called, well, they used to be called Living as One. They just rebranded and changed their name to Rezzy, Resi. And they were really great to work with. They have different levels of encoders that they sell, and that's kind of their claim to, claim to fame is their encoders. And so, we purchased kind of one of their base models of the encoder, and it worked really great for our purposes. I think the bigger encoders are for multi-site campuses who need to
Sure.
like talk between the sites and stuff like that. But it worked really well. The stream was really consistent. They have an interesting part to their technology that offers a 2 minute delay. And
Hmm.
so it pulls everything into the encoder and holds it for, 2 minutes just to make sure that it stays, consistent throughout the whole stream. And so that was something that I think was another level of protection because
Right.
I wasn't 100% sure about the internet. I think they told me it was going to be fine, but I was just like, okay. It felt like an uncontrollable variable that stressed me out a little bit, but we thought it worked really well. They have like a monthly subscription fee that you can go month by month. So for us, I'm not using it anymore, so I
Right.
just paused my subscription. But I would say that they were really helpful, they were really great, but there was a certain level of assumption that you had some video experience. And
Yeah.
so when there was like this whole setup process that I had to go to, I called my brother in law, who is a video and audio engineer for a large church in the cities, and they use this platform. And so I just said, I don't know what like rate we're going to stream at and what, all these .v.io, la la la, whatever. I had no idea. And so again, like our Facebook group, I just went to somebody who I knew probably knew or could help me find someone who knew, and they actually hopped on the call with me and helped because I just wanted to make sure it was set up properly. So that's another shout out to ask questions, guys, because
Hmm.
it's even if you're in the professional realm, there are things that we face every day that it's like I don't know, so let's find someone who does.
Yeah, and and some of these services will also allow, and I think probably what you have does. I'm not familiar with it, but they'll allow embedding in your own website, so
Yes.
you can stream to YouTube, you can stream to Facebook, and you can embed it into your own website, so you still have some of that outreach possibility. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and there are some other, we talked about like you have the encoding box. We talked about like the YOLO box. But there are also things like Roland's VR1 HD or VR50 or any of the R's basically that basically just have a USB port on the back and it goes into
Okay.
your computer like a webcam. So
Okay.
very easy if you don't have a lot of video experience to just plug that in. And it's really no different than using your webcam when you go into Facebook or whatever. Can be I don't want to pick on my pastor to say even he figured it out, but he's probably watching. So
Yeah, user
he's actually a
friendly is
super
what you're
smart,
saying.
nerdy guy. I really like
Yeah.
him, but anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's great. Well, and I think like that's what people are looking for is that kind of user friendly, but it's good quality, but it doesn't require a decade of experience in
Right.
streaming and video, because the reality of it is all of us all of a sudden have to be professional video engineers, and we're just, trying to figure it out as we go because we're not. So,
Uh,
yes.
oh, there you go. See, I told you, Neil's the guy.
Yes, Neil. Thank you. Yes. I
You're
did
not in the group. Get in the group and talk to Neil.
talk to Neil. Yeah, I did have to ratchet up my level of service for sure, but they do have a streaming only service. So like you could just pay to stream to like YouTube and Facebook through Rezzy. Yeah. Thank you, Neil. Perfect.
Awesome. I
Good.
think this is a great way to maybe answer a couple of questions and more importantly, to help us figure out which questions to ask.
Yeah.
And maybe most importantly of all, to remind us that we have this place to come together in the group and ask questions of each other in a safe environment, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well,
thank you
this
for
was
doing that,
great.
Andrea.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering the questions and just offering your knowledge and experience to everybody. And thank you guys for engaging in the chat. We really appreciate it. It's fun to see your comments and your questions because that's what community is all about, is leaning on each other and learning from each other. So we I just think that's great. And thank you guys. So we'll be back next Friday at noon Central. So grab your lunch or your coffee or whatever you do at noon Central. Yes, I have mine as well, but it's empty. So I need to go fill it.
And I'm
Yeah.
kind of getting down there myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we have to
So
keep the show short. It's how long will a cup of coffee last, you know?
it's true. It's true. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you guys next week at noon Central. Thanks, Ben.